follow-up, because it sounds like you're generating some decent leads, and I think for follow-up, this is where a lot of people tend to drop the ball. I'm not saying you are specifically, but obviously when you track the numbers and you put everything in your dashboard, we'll be able to kind of see exactly where your bottleneck is specifically. So follow-up to me is 98% of the game, because doing the work, making the calls, which it sounds like you're already doing, which is awesome, which we're probably just, we'll tighten up a little bit, but I don't really think that's your problem. Following up is where all the money is made. In our industry, 2% of all sales or less, okay, are ever done. I'd say even less. I think like maybe 0.5%, because 2% of all sales across all industries are done on the very first conversation. In real estate, it's substantially less than 2%. So it might be like 0.25% are ever done on the very first conversation, okay, where they're actually like, hey, I'm ready to do something today. Let's do it, right? Realize that 98% of every transaction you look to sell and will sell takes several phone calls. So it's a matter of saying like, how fast can I get to 20, 30, 40, 50 touches with this individual? And the amount of touches vary based on their motivation. I'll give you an example. I have one guy that I've been following up with for give or take 3 years. And when he's ready to transact, I know I'm probably going to make $500,000. It's a small little baby deal, $1.5 million, $1.7 million price range, but it's probably worth 2.5. And I know that the second he's ready and he doesn't all of a sudden change his mind about pricing all of a sudden, because he's been at the same price the whole time, he's just not ready because he's looking to sell his business and then sell the real estate separately. He's an owner occupant. Okay. This individual, as an example, I know when he's ready to transact, will be, that'll be a great paycheck, but it's being top of mind in the meantime and not be annoying. And there's so many deals that you're going to see that the seller wants too much money. The seller's not ready. The seller needs to wait for tax purposes. All these different variables, which are incredibly common, which typically as salespeople who want to do deals today, because our timeline is I need money now, right?
Yeah.
When they're not on our time horizon, we throw them to the side. So I look at follow-up as saying like, hey, how do I build enough rapport with this person where when I call them, they go, hey, Henry, how you doing? How do I build enough rapport and trust with this person where when they're ready, I am top of mind, right? Where we text regularly, where I know, when if I could send him a happy Father's Day text and he'll be appreciative of the message. It's those types of intricacies that you can't automate. These are going the extra mile. The way I look at it is, if someone's looking to sell their property in less than 30 days, I would be calling this person just about every day, if not every other day. If they're 6 months out or less, I typically will look at it as I'll give them like a 30 to 60 day time horizon before I start really going hard on the deal. But within a 90-day period of time, I'm probably going to call them every week until we can get a meeting, right? Because the goal is now get the next step, the next step, the next step. If they're 12 months plus out, which is a very large majority of leads, keep in mind that once a quarter is more than fine.
That's what I typically do once a quarter.
Perfect.
Because I feel like that's just like a perfect 3 months, not bothering them.
The big thing though with follow-up is realizing that it's not just about sending a text or sending an email. It's send a video message, then send them a phone, then give them a phone, give them a phone call. They don't answer you, leave them a voicemail. Then send them a video message, then send them an email, because one of them is going to touch them, and it's doing it in that order: call first, then then video message, then text, then email. Because like a lot of people just send text every quarter and saying, "Hey, John, just curious if you're still looking to sell your property, 123 Main Street." That's not going to suffice, right? Because every broker, every investor is doing the same thing. Until you find their mode of communication that works best with that individual, then you just go hard with that one lever. Because like you'll have some people who are like great via email and never respond to a text or call. Great. Every single time you should be sending them an email. And maybe you'll do every other month, right? Because email is a little bit dragged out like that. Same thing with text, right? Like you're never really going to talk to somebody. Maybe you do it every other month. Holidays are great times to be doing that. You can touch somebody 12 times a year just on holidays. Just keep in mind that like the once a quarter call is fine. Once you figure out the right communication mode, then you're just going to go really hard on that vertical, and then always try to leverage your holidays, right? So now you're all of a sudden following up with somebody. Instead of 4 times a year, you're hitting somebody 10 to 15 times a year.
Makes sense.
Let's go to focus for a second.
Okay.
So for your focus of like just calling different streets and everything like that, what software are you using to find these leads?
Good old-fashioned public records is my main source. So I don't know if you ever used or heard of it, but we have, it's called Cityscape for Chicago. It'll have like the zoning, lot size, building size, owner information. Obviously, if it's an LLC, I got to go into LLC search for Illinois, figure out who the manager is, get that. And then TLO is one of the things that we use. And then I also have white pages too, just figured more numbers are better. So a lot of it's manual. I do have data.
Would your company invest any money in software?
We used to have CoStar. CoStar is really expensive. I'm sure you know that. I personally would love to have it. I think we would. I just feel, or I would love it, but I don't know if it's in the cards right now.
I think that, like, if you could get them to at least get Reonomy.
Yeah, I actually shot them a note. I did like 6 videos of the training already between Friday and today. And I already shot an email to Reonomy to see what pricing would be, and it's $400, which is
$340 a month.
Yeah, it's not bad. So I could probably convince the Motus
because then you can export 1,000 leads a month off of there, and all their contact information is right in front of your face.
I will say this: I did spend when I was a property manager and construction, I knew I was going to get into brokerage and acquisition, so I did start kind of building a database for 3 years. I do have one; it's about like 4,000 properties in Chicago, so I feel like that was all done by hand, so you can imagine how painstaking that was. But I did know how to do it from my days at CoStar. Part of our training, they basically showed us how the researchers do it. So I had at least a little bit of a leg up to do it. So I feel like I have a good database right now, but obviously it's changing nonstop. And there's always buildings that I missed just from walking streets and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm sure I could probably get the Motus to invest in Reonomy or something like that. And actually, the CoStar rep actually texted me today because it's the end of the month. So they're always looking to give out deals the last week, so I'm sure you're aware of that one.
Yeah, for sure.
What, last week of the month? Yep, thanks, Sean.
Just like the car dealerships.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would just definitely look into better software. I think software is going to really help you. I think the software is also going to allow you to make substantially more calls faster. It's going to make you more productive. It's going to, because then you could also then add in a dialer. So you pay $340 a month for Mojo, and then you can get a dialing service like mojosells.com or several call tools or anything like that. You can pay a couple $100, and then all of a sudden now you're doing 3 calls at the same time, 6 calls at the same time. So now it'll substantially increase your productivity. Instead of making 50 to 100 hand dials a day or more, right now all of a sudden you could do 3 to 4 or 5x that, and it doesn't seem hard.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because right now I hand dial probably 30, 40 calls a day, just depending on what my schedule looks like. So, which by now I have most of the numbers saved, so it's me just typing in the name. But if I could make 3 at one, I mean, that's
you'll
90 calls a day.
Mind blown the productivity shift in your ability. When if you could just throw your entire database into a dialer, you'd probably go through 4,000 numbers in 2 weeks.
That'd be nice. I do have one question about that. My managing broker, one of the reasons why we never got Mojo, we've actually seen it before, was his stance on it. It's like you get maybe one chance a year, maybe 2, to get one of these guys on the phone. And then if you're calling 3 people and you get one guy, and then all of a sudden the guy who never answers somehow answers, he's like, you kind of just almost missed that chance to talk to him. So it's like his one reserve on it, which I can understand. But
I'll say it to you like this, right? And I'll say the same thing to him to his face. My team makes over 100,000 cold calls a month. Every single one of them uses a triple line dialer. Every single one. I have never had an issue. And look, maybe there's been hundreds of times where someone's answered the phone and we have no idea, and they maybe never will answer us again. It hasn't affected us, right? And you also have the ability with Mojo to do 1 line at a time.
Okay.
So you can do 1 dial at a time, or what we do is that we record a pre-recorded callback message, which is what they hear when 2 people pick up the phone at the same exact time, which is really just saying like, hey, hello, I think we have a bad connection. Let me give you a call back in a few minutes here. And then it automatically calls them back afterwards. It's not telling them to screw off, but it kind of sounds realistic enough where, like, when that happens, it automatically dials them back. Like, oh, can you hear me now? And that's it. So we haven't had too much of an issue. I really wouldn't, the amount of productivity increase versus the loss is negligible. Cool. So I think that kind of answers the focus part. In regards to sellers, so you're generating some good seller leads and you're just having a tough time selling them? So
my main job is acquisitions for our company. We own about 850 apartment units across the north side of Chicago. So when I'm calling these owners, I'm going through our spiel, we're buyers in the area, always looking at our portfolio, no commissions. We take everything as is, no mortgage contingencies, most likely a cash offer. Like, I go through that spiel. So I feel like that kind of pigeonholes me into like that bucket. That makes sense of like, okay, I only want to buy your building versus maybe there's an opportunity for me to sell it to somebody else, because not every deal is going to work for Motu. Like there may be Like I know 4 or 5 buyers where they're a little bit more aggressive than us pricing wise, just because they're smaller. Where I know I could like I have a 7 flat that I'm trying to get a hold of right now. Submitted an offer. Guy wants 2 million, probably worth 1.9 million. I know that Hunter down the street would buy that all day at 2 million because he's a one-man band, so he doesn't have the overhead, manage it himself, no problem. But I've already kind of put myself in this bucket where this guy's like, well, you just want to buy my building. Like, why would you try to sell to somebody else? All of a sudden now, like, that trust is kind of gone. Like, is he really going to get me the best price for my building?
Do you have a phone number? Do you have like a colleague that you could use their phone?
I could, yeah, potentially. Okay. I mean, there's a couple leasing agents here.
Yeah, well, because what I'm saying is like, okay, ready? And you're obviously you have a license, correct? Because what I would do is I would just call them up as somebody different and then pitch a listing.
That's fair.
I mean, I do it all the time with my guys, all the time.
Yeah.
Because I'll get blocked, they'll get blocked, whatever, and like, well, we know they're looking to sell it, and they're just not answering this guy anymore. So give me their phone number. I'll call from somebody else, and I'll say my name's John, whatever.
Yeah, it's not fair.
I would list that property. Fair. I would list that property in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And I normally never list a property, but I would totally just be like, hey, my name, you call up as Brandon, whatever. You'd be like, hey, my name is John. I was calling, I'm a local broker in the area. And, I represent a couple clients in the area who are very aggressive. However, if they're, we just look to try to support people just like yourself, trying to get top dollar in the market. Just curious, it seems like this building should go for about $2 million. Is that something that you might consider? Right? Just already knowing he wants $2 million, right?
Yeah.
Right. And then all of a sudden you flip it into a listing conversation. Be like, actually, it's interesting. I think I do have a client who might be willing to pay the $2 million. Would you be open to letting me show it? Like, they don't know you. You know what I mean? Like, so it's, don't let that cause an issue of not being able to sell the deal when they say they're ready to sell. You know what I mean?
Makes sense.
And there's been, every week we do this. We get this guy gets blocked, I get blocked, like this guy's not answering me, and 6 phone, like, we're doing the follow-up long-term, whatever, this guy's not answering me anymore. He was a hot lead, he's not answering me. Hey, here's the phone number, can you call him? Right? And then all of a sudden they'll answer from them. The
only hurdle is I'm pretty much like a one-man band here for the most part, so we'd have to see if one of the, if I paid them, they probably wouldn't do it. But yeah, no, that's a good idea.
Use their phone for 5 minutes. Don't overthink. Like, hey, like every week you just total up all the phone numbers where you're like, hey, like this is my 5 numbers I'm going to hit from this phone number, and that's it. Mm-hmm. You could use your office line versus your cell phone. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I could. Yeah, that's a good point.
Don't overthink that. But I'm just saying, use another phone number, because they normally will be like, oh my god, this number again. And then let's go to networking. You really do have to treat it like a business. Like every month, I would urge you to spend probably at a minimum 1 hour a week calling estate attorneys in your marketplace, calling accountants in your marketplace, calling buyers in your marketplace, right? Like spending 1, 2, maybe 3 hours even a week. And honestly, for the beginning part of your career, you're going to realize you're going to probably call, 10, 20, 30 estate attorneys, 10, 20, 30 accountants, like any type of profession, and 1 or 2 of them are even going to be relatively lucrative, or 1 or 2 of them are even going to refer you business. However, some of those relationships can end up making you a lot of money every year, right? So I would take it incredibly seriously, but also keep in mind, like, a lot of these guys have referral agents already. They already have referral acquisitions companies. They already have people like you, right? So you got to find the ones that are like young and hungry like yourself, who are open to networking and want to build, and like maybe they don't have a lot of referrals today, but they will over time. Huge opportunity to make some great money with some good people with the networking side, especially on the buyers. Like, you should be spending even like an hour or 2 a day trying to build your buyer list, because it's like, listen, dude, like, you're gonna pound the phone so hard every day for sellers. It's like, dude, your company's not gonna acquire all of them.
No, we definitely don't have the ability to, because on top of what I'm bringing in, like, brokers are sending me deals every day. So like I have that deal flow coming in, and then whatever I'm finding on my own. So
brokers will be another great one for you to connect with. Connect with as many brokers as you possibly can. Go to all the broker networking events. Try to connect, with all these types of people, right? But I would build a massive buyers list, right? A powerful buyers list. Like every single person who's like the top 10, top 20, top 50 buyers in your marketplace, you should know them. You should be on a first name basis. You should be going out to coffees, going out to drinks, whatever it is, schmoozing those people. Because every time you come across a deal, hey, doesn't fit our buy box, but I know it meets yours.
Let me ask you this. So a lot of the big players, shouldn't say big players, at least people like in our middle market, like we're not going to compete against like a Dumas who's building. We met with the guy today because we might be buying a deal off of him, but like
nice. He's
building 350 unit buildings, right? But like the middle market in Chicago, it's the same like 7 to 8 companies, and we're all competing for the same properties. So I feel like that's kind of a hurdle because if I do get something brought by like an Intera or an Essex, I go to the tour, I see the peak properties, I see base three, I see honorary prop, I see the same guys over and over and over.
Yep.
The kind of the hurdle that I found, because it happened one time with a deal on Milwaukee, first rejection was like, well, why doesn't Kenny and Michael buy it? And it's like the same product type and everything like that. So, and like I call after a very specific type of building, like I walk streets. So like the ones that are about to fall over, that's the one I'm calling. I'm not looking for turnkey. So I kind of skip over those. So maybe I'm leaving money on the table for those two, which I probably am.
Maybe not, maybe so, right? I mean, like until you call them, you don't know. That's why we call everyone.
Probably should just call everyone except for the buildings falling
because
over.
Like, look, so there's a buyer for every deal. And every single person might not be ready to sell today, but it's important to get in front of them because maybe down the road, they're willing to sell for a great price.
Yeah. It's true.
Don't judge a building by its looks.
If you looked at some of our buildings, you would think they're pieces of junk, but you go inside, they're super nice. So
I know. I get it. I own the same stuff, right?